Hello, everyone. I'm Patty Ann Brown, and you are in the strategy room. Democratic presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton might be flip-flopping regarding her position on super PACs. While in California today, Mrs. Clinton is expected to woo support from the Super PAC Priorities USA. At first, she refrained from endorsing the group's efforts on her behalf, but Mrs. Clinton will now meet personally with donors to the group during her trip to California, according to the New York Times. And here now with reaction, we have Sigmund, the executive director of the Global Gateway Alliance, and Lee Carter, partner with Lansky and Partners. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So outside groups such as Priorities USA are allowed to raise unlimited funds for campaigns under the Citizens United decision. But the New York Times notes, quote, "This is the first time a Democratic presidential candidate has fully embraced these independent groups." The Times going on to say that Mrs. Clinton had planned to raise money for this super PAC all along, but, quote, initially delayed doing so in part because of her pledge to make campaign finance reform a critical issue. So, Lee, is this a flip-flop?
I think it is. I mean, the bottom line here is Hillary went out with a very strong message, and she said, everyday Americans should have a champion, and I'm going to be that champion. So she's running around this idea of being an everyday American, and yet, at the same time, she's got this symbol of being a big politician. And she's contradicting that directly by going and meeting with a super PAC right now. I mean, Obama also had supported the super PAC, he just didn't meet with them. So I think that there's some contradictions that people are seeing, and it's not going to be working to her favor right now.
Well, Stephen, a Clinton spokesperson gives this explanation. With some Republican candidates reportedly setting up and outsourcing their entire campaigns to super PACs, and the Koch brothers pledging $1 billion alone for the 2016 campaign, the Democrats have to have the resources to fight back.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, a flip-flop would be if she said, I'm never going to meet with this super PAC, and I'm not going to, and you know, it's wrong to have the super PAC. She never said that. She said the campaign finance reform should happen and should be important, and she's right about that as well. What she can't do is unilaterally disarm when, as you saw in that statement, the Koch brothers are going to spend $1 billion by themselves. You used to have, 4 years ago, everybody was surprised that you got to the first $1 billion campaign overall. They're going to spend $1 billion by themselves, mostly trying to destroy her. And when Jeb Bush and Rand Paul have sent their primary strategists out to run their super PACs, not to run their campaigns, but to run their super PACs, so essentially to outsource their campaigns to their super PACs. So, you know, she can't unilaterally disarm. She has to do this. This is an unfortunate consequence of Citizens United, a decision by the Supreme Court that really needs to change, or this is just going to keep ratcheting up in American politics.
I think there's a business side to running for office, and then there's the image side. And what people need to, what people, especially Hillary, really needs to understand is she's got this image side that she needs to protect. People need to trust her. People want, I mean, she wants everyday Americans to vote for her. And so there's an image side, and I think what this represents is a flip-flop on the image side. On the business side, she has to do what she has to do. But
yeah, the only thing I would challenge in that is that I think, you know, that's true of the Republican side as well, right? There's nobody's running to be not an average American or appeal to average Americans. And they're all supporting these super PACs, right? So I don't think you're going to see votes. People aren't going to vote over whether you have a super PAC or whether a super PAC supports you or not. They're going to vote based on whether they think you support them, their families, their state, can lead the country in the right direction compared to the other person.
You know, Priorities USA, as we mentioned earlier, was founded by aides to President Obama prior to the 2012 election. It's now transitioning so that it will be supporting Mrs. Clinton. Several of her aides are going to be taking key leadership roles in this PAC. How important are these donors? I mean, could it be done without them? Well, let's start with Stephen on that.
Could what be done without them? Could you run a campaign without them? I wish you could run a campaign without them. I mean, really. Up until a few years ago, you had actual caps on presidential races at $44 million, and there was public funding in presidential races. George Bush was the first one to get rid of that, and essentially, therefore, get rid of caps on the presidential campaigns themselves. And then you had the Citizens United ruling. So now you have basically unlimited nuclear warfare in presidential campaigns in particular. And, you know, it's effective, unfortunately, because you get to pay for an unlimited amount of communicating, an unlimited amount of image building and image destroying, and an unlimited amount of messaging. But, you know, it's very destructive to the American political process. It increases the amount of polarization between people, and you know, it really is wrong in terms of making good choices between candidates. candidates.
Running short on time, but Lee, you mentioned earlier that President Obama didn't go quite as far as Hillary is now in embracing the Super PAC.
I think that she's just got to be careful about how far she goes, because so much of what's going to happen with her is going to come down to trust. Are people going to trust her to say what she means or do what she says? And this seems to be a contradiction. A month ago, she's talking about campaign finance reform. 1 month later, she's having a meeting with a Super PAC. Whether or not it's permitted, it is a contradiction in action, which is going to make people not trust her as much, and that could be a problem for her.
And there is definitely a prediction that her campaign is going to raise a lot of money. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Thank you both, Stephen and Lee, for joining us. And you can check out foxnews.com for more on the 2016 presidential race. I'm Patty Ann Brown. Thanks for watching.